Good morning, everyone. Chris here with Inspired Energy. Joining me this morning, Hartwell. Good morning, Hartwell.
Good morning, Chris. Good morning, everyone.
So we're continuing our journey along the Ring of Seeking and doing gates 15 and 58 today to bring this one to a conclusion. So where can you do a recap of where we've been and where we're going today?
Yes, we've done 4 of them, 4 of these gene keys, and a lot of them are in the root. We saw that with 39 and 52 and 53. There's one other one. And remember, the root is about a pressure. And it's about a pressure to evolve, a drive to move forward in our life. And now we are going to see in these last 2, how these themes kind of all, we're going to summarize it at the end. But, these in a sense move us along this archetypal road, responding to the stress and the pressure of life. And today we finish off with 58 and 15. 15 is the only one of them that is not in the root. But we've left it to last, and there's a reason for that. So if we dive into 58, 58 is the journey from dullness to bliss via vitality. So at the shadow level of this one, it's interesting that 58 in China, the hexagram that makes up 58, the hexagram is repeated twice. So that doesn't happen many times, right? Here we have the hexagram on the bottom and the hexagram on the top is the same, and it's called the lake. Think of a lake undisturbed by any wind, tranquil and calm and beautiful and deep. And so here we have that energy in the 58th gene key. And at the lowest level, it's all about dissatisfaction. It's all about what keeps us disconnected from our natural state of being, which is very vital, which is the gift word for 58. Mm-hmm. And that dissatisfaction in us always pushes us towards self-improvement. We feel and think that we need to do something in order to bring about a state of joy, in order to bring about a state of feeling good. And that great pressure always wants to have us improve something in life or be of service in some way. And it's ironic because this push, this drive, which is evolutionary, it makes us miserable. Dissatisfaction makes us miserable. Mm-hmm. And yet it also forces us to evolve. So there's a paradox here.
Mm-hmm. Well, it forces you to move.
Pardon me?
Forces you to move to do something about it.
Well, the thing is, when we see the enlightenment level of any of these gifts, we can't do anything to become enlightened. We cannot. Mm-hmm. And yet the paradox is that on certain levels of our psyche, we are pushed and pressured to do something. Mm-hmm. So it's a paradox, it's not like one leads automatically to the other. Mm-hmm. As Richard Rudd would say, it's simply a gear shift when from trying to improve the world to trying to improve yourself. Even so, the spiritual quest is yet another fruitless search because it too is based upon the illusion of the future. Nonetheless, the process cannot be sidestepped. Pressure is pressure, and this 58th shadow will not let you rest until you have exhausted your inner search. Mm-hmm. This shadow exhausts you in order that you will finally come to your knees. And in this sense, dissatisfaction is truly divine and contains the secret of grace. So, here we come up once again with this idea that we have to accept where we are. And if we're in a place of pressure, we have to accept that too.
Mm-hmm.
But once we rise out of the level of fear, we enter into the realm of vitality. And here the energy that we once employed to seek an answer in the world to the dissatisfaction we feel, now turns inward and creates this explosion of inner vital force.
Mm-hmm.
When we have released all resistance, life expressing through us is experienced as vitality. No resistance, then you get to feel this sense of joy and vitality. And at the highest level, that opens up into a state of bliss where the dissatisfaction that was transformed into vitality now is drawn into the body, and it reverts to its pure and pristine state, that image that we had of the lake.
Mm-hmm.
And here, we are beyond mind, and we are simply living, and we are beyond, an individualized sense of self in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's bliss. That's where we get to at the end of the journey.
Wonderful. Where
It is
everybody wants to be.
Pardon me?
Where everybody wants to be right now.
Yeah. I really resonate to what he says, though, about that. It's so paradoxical. You can't escape the pressure, and you know that at some point you will transcend the pressure, but there's nothing you can do until you're fully exhausted.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do to alleviate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is gate 15, and why did you leave it till the very last?
Well, partly I left it to the last because it's the only one that's not in the route, but it's also like thematically somehow it in Richard's work, it kind of seemed like, okay, let's leave that one to the last because, well, we'll see as we go through it, I think. You see, the 15 is, I think 15 is the gate of spring. It's the gate of the spring equinox. And so this is a journey from dullness to fluorescence via the way of magnetism. The liver is what we're talking about with gate 15. And one of the great literary works of mankind is Dante's Divine Comedy. I don't know if, some of you may have heard of it, some of you may not, but in that it's an epic poem that describes it describes the journey from hell to heaven. And so the Divine Comedy talks about the geography of consciousness, which was broken down for Dante into hell, purgatory, and heaven. And this really mirrors for Richard Rudd, how he talks about the shadow, the gift, and the city. But one of the key points here is that one of the key qualities of hell wasn't what you might expect. One of the key qualities was repetition. An endless repetition of the same thing makes me think of the movie Groundhog Day and how distressing that would be. And so dullness or repetition is kind of at the heart of this gene key, at the heart of the 15. And it really points out for us that, a dog could sit on a doorstep for a month, with nothing happening and not be bored. But humans, we have a tendency to kind of try to escape the dullness of life. But dullness is like a lack of polarity. It's like it's about not being charged either way. Violence isn't boring, ecstasy isn't boring, but being in the middle in a place of non-polarity, that's what's dull. But at the heart of life, there is a dullness, is one way to put this. There is a sense of repetition. But if we enter into that in a mystical way like the Buddha did, then it shifts. It's simply, escaping the shadow is simply a matter of pure acceptance, acceptance of what is. And so we rise out of that, and it's all about attitude, which is the first great law of magic. If you change your attitude, you change your experience. And then you enter into the gift, which is magnetism. And here he talks about the Schumann resonance, which is the frequency at which the earth resonates, which is apparently 7.83 hertz. We were talking about that, Chris and I, off camera, last week a little bit. But this has been, it's kind of like, what is the heartbeat of the earth? Well, it resonates at 7.83 hertz. And the more in tune you are with life, with the heartbeat of life, the more magnetic you become. And the more connected you become with all of the rest of life, what a lot of people call Gaia. The more you become connected to Gaia, the more you feel a kinship to not just, nature, but all of humanity, because this is the gene key that most relates to diversity. So magnetism, having that ability to influence and be influenced by others, and this is the attraction, or this is the wonder and the genius of the gift of magnetism. And at the highest level, it becomes fluorescence. Kind of an odd word, you don't hear it talked about more. We think of fluorescent lights, but fluorescence is the energy of nature bursting into flower. This energy of being surrounded by magic, by light, and by the tangible mystery of life. One of my favorite movies of all time had Barbra Streisand in it, and it's about reincarnation and the mystery and magic of life, and it's called On a Clear Day. And the opening sequence is her going through some sort of a civic garden where, these beautiful flower beds all around her, and she's singing, and all of the blossoms are opening up in slow motion, seemingly as a response to her singing. And, this is fluorescence, the sense of a flowering that just happens in this exuberant dance. The whole world bursting into bloom. This is the energy of inheriting the earth, as the Bible would say, where you feel in touch with the Davic kingdoms, the kingdoms of nature and the elements and beings of nature, elves and fairies and gnomes and dryads, naiads, forgetting my terminology. But, this represents a leap of consciousness, the human uniting with the Davic. And Richard Rudd says that as we're moving through this current transition and evolution, we will once again feel that connection to nature. And so in some ways, this energy of fluorescence encapsulates all of these six. Think of the words that we've looked at, especially for the gift words. We have 39 was dynamism, and 53 expansion, 54 aspiration, 58 vitality and magnetism. Dynamism, vitality, magnetism, expansion. All of these words share the same flavor. And we can feel in them that dynamism of the root pressure, pushing us to evolve, pushing us to move into the higher states of experience. So these six pressures, they drive us to seek answers. They drive us to get to the end and in a sense, get to the end of our question asking.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's what we all want to do. So We all are
Yeah.
seeking for the answers all the time, right? So,
And yet, getting to the end can't be faked.
so how would you sum all of this up?
Well, how would I sum it all up? Um, this, in a sense, more so than some of the others, this sums that sort of evolutionary push that we all feel.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're alive to that, I would suggest that we all, in a sense, enter into an awareness of how much it is we want something, and how that engages us with life and on some level.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, even as we're aware of that, to kind of look at it from as a witness and say, wow, look how driven I am. I'm still not ready to give up. I might read all this spiritual literature and know that at some point I'll be at the point of exhaustion. I'll be at the point of finally bowing to something, and giving over to God and giving over to life and giving up my resistance. But I'm not there yet, darn it. But to feel, in a sense, compassionate for yourself in that, and to feel hopeful and also held by what these spiritual truths that we're examining, because you are not outside of them. Our feelings of exhaustion and stress and greed and dissatisfaction and dullness, all of these things keep us in this energy of feeling that we're outside of the major project of life.
Mm-hmm.
But that's an illusion. You can never be outside of it.
No, we're in it, whether we want to be in it or not. We're in it.
And do you have any thoughts, because you've got so many of these gates, Chris? What would what is your takeaway right now?
Well, for me, the whole thing, pressure wise, it's always pressure. Like, I feel pressure every day, which is why I believe I've had so many physical issues, right? It's affected those parts of my body which, are related to the gates. So that's something that I came to realize as I was looking through the whole human design system. So, I mean, it is a good thing to explore those gates and then take a look at your physical body and say, is it actually affecting my body? So, mm-hmm.
And what are your tips for that perhaps being lessened?
Well, it's just to actually look at it, right? And not just go, oh, I'm sick because, of the environment, or I'm sick because of something that I ate, or a lot of this is spiritual and emotional, the things that affect your body. And I don't think people make that connection. In today's day and age, they're starting to look at it, but in the past, they just assumed it was all physical. It had some source that was physical, not so much emotional and spiritual.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So with that, do you have next week's subject?
Next week we're looking at a codon ring that only has 2 gene keys as part of it. It's called the Ring of No Return. And it's made up of gene key 62 and 31.
Oh, perfect. Well, we look forward to hearing that one. So with that, everybody, it's a beautiful day outside. Go out and enjoy it. And we'll say God bless. Have a magical day. See you next Wednesday.